Welcome viewers. On behalf of Iravati Research and Communication Center or IRCC, this is your host Pratim Ranjan Bose. In this edition, we will discuss the significance of the recent bilateral between the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi during the G20 summit in Delhi. I have with me Professor Sreeradha Datta, a well-known name in neighborhood studies and an advisor to IRCC. Datta worked in various capacities in think tanks and is currently the professor of Jindal School of International Affairs, a part of the O.P. Jindal Global University in Delhi. She has just edited a volume titled Bangladesh on a New Journey, Moving Beyond Regional Identity. Professor Datta, Bangladesh is an important development partner of India in the region. Prime Minister Hasina was invited at the G20 summit in Delhi, and Prime Minister Modi held one-on-one with Prime Minister Hasina. On the same day, he had an all-important bilateral with the US President Joe Biden. By any measure, this has been one of the most hectic as well as fruitful year for India's Foreign Office. India's relation with the US and Europe are arguably at its best. The India-US and India-France relationships are not only getting more strategic, but the business interests are also rising. UK is keen to complete an important trade treaty with India this year. In view of the above, how important was the bilateral between PM Modi and PM Hasina? I'm just taking into consideration that Prime Minister Hasina's Awami League hasn't faced an election in true sense of the term for last 2 terms. The Bangladeshi economy is facing headwinds. The popularity of the ruling party has reportedly taken a beating. And on top of all, the US-led West is insistent on a fair election. Over to you.
Thank you, Pratim. Always good to be here. Yes, very quickly, I think, as we all know, that Sheikh Hasina was the only Prime Minister of a South Asian nation to be invited to this meeting. And we have noticed the kind of last 1 year of forensic activity that India has done towards, making G20 a really a successful platform, and has really worked full on. And of course, the outcome document was also very comprehensive. But the fact that Sheikh Hasina was called here, of course, there is that, the recognition of Bangladesh's achievement, their growth trajectory, and, for what they've done for the last 50 years. But also at the same time, I think it's a point which is not lost on any one of us who look at this region very closely. That, as you said, this year was a hectic time for India. Looked at several cooperative platforms. And of course, the US India friendship seems to be, on upward trajectory besides other nations that we have in region and outside. But Bangladesh holds a special position for us here. And we believe by early January next year, Bangladesh is going to head into its next election. So this is a crucial term, and I'm not sure there'll be any more platform for the two premiers to meet. And I'm told, as you just mentioned, that the first meeting of the day was with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, and a meeting that was held in his house, which is also not very often done. So something obviously special. Of course, they did sign 3 MOUs, the digital payment being the most critical one, or something on culture, and of course, agro based industry. But importantly, I think it was a message to the rest of the world, which is G20 here. And of course, I think the photo op with President Biden was not lost on anyone. There was certainly a strong message being played here by India, because we all understand that India works very closely with Bangladesh, particularly this Awami League government. And this is the 3rd term that she's on a constant 3rd term. I mean, she came into election 2008 December, which was a fabulously, free, fair election, which happened, the kind of majority she got. 2014 and 2018 were completely different stories. So this year, everybody is going to be with very hawk eyes watching 2024. And India, of course, is lending full support to Bangladesh. And I think besides the other aspects, Sheikh Hasina being invited to G20 was also about that.
Okay. So India has been supportive to Hasina government for all these years. and vice versa, in a way, because our cooperation has gone up. However, Indian projects didn't make adequate progress vis-a-vis Chinese projects. This has been a case which is noticed in, say, last 5, 6 years. The utilization of India-sponsored Rampal thermal power station had also suffered. You might have read the news. How did India-Bangladesh relations fare vis-a-vis Bangladesh-China relations? Over to you.
Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, of course, works very well and closely with India. There is no doubt about that. But this is a point I think some of us have often discussed, that there's a very, very strong constituency within the government, within Awami League, who lends a lot of support to China too. And that's very, very evident. I think none of us have any doubt about that. And as you said, the Rampal, I mean, on a basis of, they're not able to buy coal, and there's some other, they keep blaming India that we're not pushing these projects and things like that. But again, the local environment has been such which hasn't been very pro-India. We've seen that. But rightly said, any project with China just surges ahead. Of course, it's a different matter that they have a different way of functioning.
Let me put it a
But I
little more
think
straight. Let me put it a little more straight. We have our inadequacies and etc. all granted. Having said that, there has been, I can give many examples where the enthusiasm had really been missing when it is an Indian project. And, you both, I'm sure you will agree that, as you say, that there has been a strong constituency. And there is a supportive ecosystem which lacks in Indian case. And I know, so examples, I have examples from the business. What do you?
yes, truly so. And I think, again, in terms of the business, we've seen that while Indian businesses are going all over the world, they haven't come to Bangladesh too much. I mean, the small economic zones that they've been developed, there hasn't seen Indian investments. Indian business interest hasn't worked well because obviously, as you said exactly so, the environment there has not been very conducive, which is not the case. And I think there is also another aspect, and I'm not sure whether one should say it so openly. We've seen levels of corruption. Bangladesh was never known to be a non-corrupt country. It always had a tag of being corruption. But what we've always understood is the way Chinese firms work, the way Chinese, investments work, they are able to kind of oil all hands. The machinery is far smoother. I think India has a problem with that, is not able to do it in that ease or whatever. I mean, there's, as you're saying, the ground support for India lacks for a variety of reasons, and this is one of them also, I think.
Obviously so. And misuse of loan part, which you were hinting at, or going to non-productive use, that came to discussion. That has been a design, gold plating of costs and etc. It had been evident in Sri Lanka as well, with how this thing worked. So the point, our point is very clear, is that we are talking about a cooperation-led development, right? So there, it has been 15 years. 15 years is no short term. And let us remember that the 2010 line of credit had been the biggest for Bangladesh to get from any source. So whatever our inadequacies are, there has been adequate kind of attention to Bangladesh in terms of economic cooperation. The question, if that hasn't worked for whatever reasons, then that probably speaks for some disappointment in that relation, isn't it?
No, it is. I mean, small things like we've seen, it's a fact that, India and Bangladesh has been able to almost replicate the pre-65 cross-border facilities that used to be there in terms of the railway lines and, the buses, all of that has increased. But at the same time, we also know Benapol, Petrapol has been subject to a huge amount of mafia group on both sides who work, totally hand in hand, which has ensure that 90%, I think, of the land trade, despite the fact that we have very good other facilities with other points of Bengal and elsewhere, which are not being used. And we keep hearing about Tata trucks standing there for 45. Of course, a recent agreement has been signed, and things I'm being told it's going to be eased out. But I think on the ground, again, there has been a lot of problems in terms of, while the hard infrastructure is in place, we've not able to, and this is again a problem on both sides, that the soft infrastructure and the other issues that need to be addressed on the ground hasn't been, which is why we still follow the circuitous route of trade, despite the fact that transit has been allowed. The same issues vis-a-vis, but I mean, while I said there, I also believe that if India and Bangladesh work closely together, this is the first step of a much more robust sub-regionalism that we are going to see in the region, which this region has never seen. So I was really hoping that something like this, but unfortunately, exactly what you say, that there seems to be a far more positive response towards the China projects and other things that are happening there. And we've, despite the fact that our LCs with the highs, we've never given such LCs to anybody. Forget the neighborhood anywhere else. We haven't had the same kind of a positive response. I mean, but of course, officially we believe that it's been a great work compared to what it was. We've done great progress, but it could have been much more. I completely agree with you.
If I may add, if we see the engagement with China, that had gone up by leaps and bounds. And one can feel it simply by the presence of Chinese guests in hotels. You can see them on the streets, and this is the last just 5 years story. So nothing great, nothing wrong for any country to reap economic benefits and have it. But when it is vis-a-vis India, we are just comparing. That takes us with me to the third question and the final question. The US clearly wants India to take leadership position in and outside the region for a vast part. The IMEC corridor is a clear proof about the geopolitics that is emerging, or geopolitics or geostrategy. India is also a crucial member of Quad, and it is not the same India that it was 5 years ago. The Indian view about Quad has revolutionized or changed substantially. You are aware of about Quad. Are India and the US on the same page with regard to Bangladesh and its strategic importance to ensure peace in the Bay of Bengal region? Over to you.
I actually believe that US and Bangladesh have the same interest in Bangladesh. US and India have the same interest in Bangladesh. To, of course, uphold democratic norms and, also be part of the larger Quad. And not only that, I mean, I think in Asia, there is a kind of a pole which is emerging, which is like most countries are gravitating towards India-led kind of I think Singapore's gone on record to say India is the only ethical power in Asia and, things like that. So I believe, and there is a certain amount of also distrust and anger vis-a-vis China for some other reasons. We all know that. So there is that, and also US understands that, and quite clearly so, that India does play a much stronger role in the region and outside. So obviously, I think India and US has a kind of a deep sense of appreciation for that role. Both kind of support each other in that way. That yes, which is not the case with our other, the China factor, as we are saying. But on Bangladesh, I mean, I think US has been making the noise. We've all heard about that. Because as I said, 2014, 20 elections were anything but free and fair. And while we've also, and I think government of India has said that India wants peaceful, free and fair election, but the way the things are in Bangladesh, and we are aware of it, the kind of distrust that exists on the ground, between the political alliances on two sides, it is very difficult for the opposition to, I mean, there's hardly any opposition. Opposition, of course, is a part of the system now. But, the parties who wasn't able to join the 2018 elections, or they did join it for officially, but of course they were not, you know what happened. They don't trust election which is
51%
going to be
seats the Army League won unopposed. So 2014
yeah,
you are referring to.
2014, 2018, BNP wanted to join the elections, but I mean, before they could, cast their vote, the ballot boxes were filled. 2018. These are known facts
2018,
now.
let us all agree that it was mockery of an election.
Yeah, totally so. And now BNP has gone and has been constantly, championing the cause that they want a caretaker government or interim government, neutral government, whatever the case may
That
be,
is
whatever you
unlikely
call
to
it.
happen because it has already been, it is a court ruling. So, you have to go
No, no, there's a
change
court
the law
ruling,
then.
yes, but you can also change that, right? Because they've also had elections when it was not part of the constitution. You've had elections. So if they want to, they do. But I think this particular government, Awami League-led government, is very clear that they will not, you know, change the system at all, and they're saying that their election commission is strong enough to hold free and fair election, which the opposition led by the BN completely disagree. So we can see that there is a fight right there, and the fact that nobody wants to compromise, and there's even discussion platform. uh, there hasn't been. So under the circumstances, situation is tough, but at the same time, US constantly has put the pressure on. We don't talk about it so much because we do, but I think there has been a sense that we definitely want to see a peaceful and a free and fair election. But US, of course, has concerns. All of us watching Bangladesh has similar concerns.
So I say that it is the last question. I can't avoid the temptation to ask a quick one. Have we exhausted all options on Bangladesh beyond the sea?
I would like to believe that India, Bangladesh right now is posed at a situation where, irrespective of what government comes, like what we do in India, irrespective of who's in Delhi, we go to work with Bangladesh. I really believe that any government who's elected, by a responsible electorate. We've seen Bangladesh has always had a very, very extremely responsible electorate, will be able to work with India. We somehow believe that Awami League are the only ones that we are comfortable with, but I think anybody, any group, any alliance who are brought in by the people will work with us closely. I'm completely convinced, despite the fact I'm aware of 2001 and 2000 experience, which has left nasty, those nasty memories are something that we keep falling back on. But I think it's a different Bangladesh now. They also understand what is the advantages of working with India. So while Awami League, of course, supports, and Sheikh Hasina has been a huge champion of working with India, I think we are ignoring the other constituencies in Bangladesh who would equally be happy to work with us.
That also defies sometimes, my understanding. If we can, we now have such a thriving relationship with Saudi Arabia and even with Taliban government in Afghanistan. We have re-entered there. We have opened our office as well. So that means that our diplomats are too good to get their job done. So why can't we see options? Thank you so much, Professor Datta.